Welcome. If you have an orchid with yellow leaves and you are getting worried about it, then this video will help you out. I'll share with you some causes and also some quick fixes. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to start off by telling you that I have another video about orchid leaf drop. So yellowing leaves and dropping leaves are very closely related in their causes and also in their solutions. So you can check out that video. I'll leave a link in the description and you can check that one out as well. So they're actually pretty similar videos. So let's start off by talking about what are some of the causes. So the main primary causes of yellowing leaves are overwatering, a nutrient imbalance, cold temperatures, it could be deciduous, the leaves dropping off could just be a natural part of that type of orchid, and the natural aging process. This first orchid right here, it is a dendrobium, and it was very overwatered, and it ended up with all of its leaves turning yellow and it ended up dying. So too much water and not enough drainage, and was not allowed to dry out between watering, and the leaves all turned yellow and they fell off and then it died. This one right here has some tips that are turning yellow and drying out, and it's because it was over fertilized. There's too many fertilizer salts in the potting mix. So this particular dendrobium, Anobi is what it's called, it likes really clean, pure water. It caused the leaves to turn brown at the end. This one I picked up at the grocery store again, and I didn't look at it very closely when I purchased it, and I didn't notice that it had these bacterial infections. But both pests and diseases can cause leaves to turn yellow. So picture a little insect that is sucking the sap out of your orchid, and it removes the chlorophyll and the leaves turn yellow. So this one right here is, you can see the leaf that's turning yellow and it's kind of separating from the stem, and that's because it has crown rot. And once crown rot sets in, it's next to impossible to save it. So you really want to avoid getting water on the orchid's crown. And if you look below right here, you can also see that there is some fertilizer salt build up. So pretty unhealthy environment for this orchid right here. Right here, this is pretty natural. It's just the lower leaf that is turning yellow, and you can easily snip it off. There are some orchids like this Lycaste right here, and their leaves turn yellow and they fall off, and that is very normal. And almost all catasetums right here, these also are deciduous and lose their leaves. So if you grow either a Lycaste or a catasetum, or even some types of dendrobiums lose their leaves. So if that's the case, or if it's a lower, older leaf, then you don't need to worry about it. But if you do need to worry about it, let's talk about how to troubleshoot these circumstances. So the first thing is to examine your watering. And when I say examine your watering, what I mean is you can look at the roots, see if they are wet, if they're rotted, and also check out the potting mix. And the next thing is to check out the location, see what the temperatures are. Is it too cold? Is it too hot? Or is it getting too much light? So if it's too cold, you can move it somewhere that's a little bit warmer. If it's getting too much light, you can move it a little bit away, and you can also increase humidity and air movement, because when you have a lot of light, you also need a lot of humidity and air movement. So what I do is I just point a fan away from the orchids, and that can help distribute the air. Look for pests and diseases, and like I said, those things can leach the chlorophyll out of the orchid and they can turn it yellow. And you can assess for nutrients. So if it needs fertilizer, then you can fertilize it. Look for just kind of a limp orchid that's really not up to much, that's not as robust as it could be. And if it has too many nutrients, as in too many fertilizer salts, then you'll need to rinse those salts away, possibly repot it. And when you water your orchid, make sure that you avoid the crown And if you do get water in the crown, you can use a Q-tip, paper towel, a little cloth, and kind of dab it around in the corner, just where the water has accumulated, so that you can get the water out of the crown and prevent rot and yellow leaves. Right here we can see an example of rotted roots, and with rotted roots you need a healthy potting mix, and that the healthy roots means that you will also grow healthy leaves. So potting can be really helpful. So here's an example of a nice, healthy, open potting mix, and that will allow the water to flow freely through the potting mix. Keep in mind that after you repot, that the potting mix does not absorb much water, so you might need to water more frequently. Right here we have a humidistat. It's important to keep track of humidity, especially if you have a high light situation. Then there's a lot of light. So I have here's some LED grow lights, and then there's also natural light coming in through the window. So it's really important to have good air movement and humidity in this situation. So one way that you can do that is just by adding a humidifier. And if you need to feed your orchid because it is lacking in nutrients, then it's important to fertilize your orchid quarter to half strength. That's recommended. Make sure that you use a complete fertilizer. Complete fertilizer is more important than the actual brand of the fertilizer. And fertilize when it's actively growing. When you see new roots and new leaves, new pseudobulbs growing, those are all indications that it's actively growing, and it needs more water and more fertilizer during this time. But if it is not actively growing, if it's resting, as some orchids rest and go dormant, then you want to ease off the fertilizer. And if, on the other hand, if you're noticing the fertilizer salts from too much fertilizer, or even the brown root tips, then you want to flush the potting mix with water. And you can see right here, see that this is scale, but a lot of insects and pests that attack orchids, they start to suck the sap out of the orchid and it turns it yellow like that. So that could be another cause. So look really carefully at your orchid and make sure that you don't have any indication that you have mealybugs or thrips, or like this is a picture of scale. So that's what you really want to avoid, and this really got out of hand and I ended up losing this orchid. So here are some quick let's just talk about some quick fixes. And what I mean by quick fix, it's something that's like pretty easy to implement. So check your potting mix and the roots, see how your watering schedule is, see how healthy the potting mix is. Those are two things that can really help you to grow nice green leaves that are not yellow. And you can consider adding humidity if you have high light. If there's a lot of light that your orchid's getting, then it's going to need more air movement and more humidity. And always inspect and look for any sign of pests and diseases that might be causing the leaves to turn yellow, and look for a nutrient deficiency or fertilizer salts, and then that will help you to balance how much fertilizer. And of course, know your orchids so that you know that if it's turning yellow and it's going to fall off, if it's completely normal and natural, like it might be for the Lycaste or the cat acetum, or if it's a lower leaf that has been there for a long time, then you know that it's just a natural part of the aging process. So if you liked this video and enjoyed it, please like it, comment, share it, and subscribe to my channel. And we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.